Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to Victoria 3, aka Vicky 3. I will be locking down that common name, Vicky 3, before long. You'll not hear me call it Victoria 3 much longer. The race against the United Kingdom to colonize the territory is very much going in their favor. I don't think we're going to have control of even one state fully. Well, we don't. We clearly don't. So, for that, we're gonna kind of just ultimately get what we get and have to deal with that regionally on what we have. But at least we've gotten something. It is absolutely progress for our small nation of Darfur, but it is going to force our hand to look to other things because we have been locked into our one region, and this region is about to be done and dusted in terms of all territory being owned and developed. One possible way to get forward and get out and maybe start actually trading outside of our own internal network is railways, which has just now been unlocked. I'll see what I can do with it. We don't have the materials that we need, but it is useful for so many things, and it will expand as a building. It's going to expand our infrastructure, which is going to help with the penalties that we currently face. Could be an expensive thing, but could be a beneficial thing. We'll see what that does for us. But we have another region on the way in 100 days, and that'll at least close this area off to being ours, as the UK hopefully will be focusing on that and hopefully focusing down here, and that we can at least get a little bit further in our territorial grab here of Darfur. And we do worryingly have this negative balance for the meantime, and it's absolutely impacting our gold reserves. Now, how or why we've gotten into that after the Krakatoa event, that did impact us. I think that's what got us into the negative balance in the first place, but the event is over. The event is cleared up. It should not be impacting us any further, yet we have not recovered. You can see right now the economy is slowly getting better, so maybe that is something. I did turn down some of the negatives that we had a while back, so maybe that's something. The rural folk wanting to be part of the government might be something, and we're going to look to make some reforms again in the near future. Legitimacy is low, so maybe if we add in rural folk, it does raise the legitimacy a lot. See, nobody's particularly happy right now except for the Sunni ulema. Looks like we could make an economic change to agrarianism. That's what the rural folk are interested in, and I think that would probably be a good option. We'll look and see what else there is. Okay, it was one of the bold things that I was looking at as a possibility to see how, right? Just more of a experiment than anything, but to see how our nation would transform if we banned slavery. It's 1880. A lot of the world has banned slavery by this stage, and we are at a point where we could ban slavery, and there's overwhelming support for it. So let's go ahead and get on who is the one that is not landowners. Of course, landowners oppose, as they're more often the slave owners. Okay, we're going to try to ban slavery. There's our big goal of this episode. And see how that transforms our nation going forward. It's going to make a lot more people, half of our population is slaves. It's going to double the population that is represented here, there, and everywhere. But it's also going to take away a majority of our labor force. It's going to transform what our labor force is, what it does, how it operates, and there is our latest area just finished. So let's see what our Darfuri Equatoria is looking like as that pocket is now done. The UK has finished it. They are now fully working on this pocket here against, what we are doing. I think we added an urban building possibility. The rubber plantations is now possible to go to 2, so that increased by 1. And we have 3 arable land, more options. Now, the railway, haha, it is possible. Predicted earnings go down a lot, but the improvement, we don't have the coal, we don't have the engines. It's going to take longer to build, but ultimately the transportation is plus 50, and infrastructure is going to go plus 20. So our negative infrastructure problem is going to go away. So let's build a railway. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. It's going to take a while because we don't have the resources, proper resources. It's, you know, got a negative impact, but our weekly construction isn't terrible. I'm excited to see what happens with a railway. We're going to want to get one here too as soon as possible, at least one in each, so we have, you know, something going for that. But yeah, it's going to allow us to do a lot more building and if we pass slavery, which has a 37% chance on this first go, still holding that negative, but we still have some gold reserves, but it's getting low. So 2 major changes coming. We'll see how they impact the economy. I'm a little nervous about keeping a negative right now. I'd like to have that reserve cash, as you know, we're about to make a major change. UK, please fill in those pockets before you expand up here. Looks like we might only be getting maybe 2 more, possibly 3 regions, the one included that's currently being colonized. But it's a great territorial expansion. All the things that we've done were not possible without this colonization. This colonization has been huge, but the UK coming along and just flying through and colonizing like there's no tomorrow has been really hard on us. Success chance now up to 43%. Advance 50%. No chance of debate. Small chance of stall. It still has a better chance of just advancing than succeeding, but things are looking really good on the slavery ban happening in the not too distant future as we go to wrap up our next pocket here into that next one. And again, the UK is nearly done filling in that pocket, so they'll be closing even further on us pretty soon. But with another one done, what do we have? Anything new? Arable land, +1. So we have 4 more now. The millet farms can definitely come along, or we could get into something else like sugar and tobacco are both possibilities for us. I would love to see a logging camp option. I'd really like to get a second logging camp. Okay, starting to encroach on our territory here. Our window, our pocket's getting smaller and smaller. They have 1 more pocket to fill down there. Assuming they will do so soon. We did not pass, but our chance of success remains about the same, and the chance of advancement, and we didn't. Okay, the railroad is nearly done, and so is our next colonization effort. And the railway has finished, and we're taking in that backside, which opens up both of these to the UK. They have 1 left down here, plus those 2, so it's the last 4 areas to colonize. So colonization effort is nearly done. Okay, so far our railway is costing us a ton of money. We have employed a lot of people. What is it actually doing for us? Do we want to subsidize this to get it running fully? What's it going to do? Creates transportation, but it's doing so, yeah, at a heavy cost. But it is creating infrastructure and urbanization. The infrastructure is definitely good for us. The infrastructure is going to help the other areas within the region, and that was what we were looking at. But right now, the cost is not. Logging camps. Logging camp. Okay. We're going to add a logging camp. That is absolutely our next one. We have the infrastructure now, which means we can, we can put into the other areas. They are going to get stronger, but right now the cost is much bigger than the gains. We're going to have to go back to more expensive. We're going to have to go back to cheap again on everything here, and that's still not overcoming what we have. To start taxing grain as well. That covers about half of the losses. Maybe we tax transportation knowing that it's going to get better. Those luxury clothes and coffee still at a deficit, but the deficit is better than it was. See how things continue. I want to add transportation up here, but we've already seen that it's costly. It's very costly. So maybe not yet. But let's try to get the economy a little bit stronger before we do that. Let's also see what happens when we get out of slavery. Okay, there's that last pocket down there, so it's down to these last 3 colonizable regions here. The race is on, and I have a feeling that we might not get another one in. I have a feeling the UK is going to enter one of those quite soon, and probably just before we're able, they'll enter the last one, and that'll be that. Yep, there goes one of them. And we are almost back to a positive relation with the UK. That's something we definitely want to maintain. And Egypt as well. Those are the 2 that are a danger to us. But this is not looking good, and those gold reserves are nearly gone. Hopefully the logging camp is going to help us. And there goes that last one. It's still not a guarantee that the UK is not going to sweep this one out from underneath us. Okay, the logging camp is done. So at least that's happened. We'll see how it proceeds. Is it going to get better? Weekly balance does go a little bit higher. Oh, and we just lost it. UK just stole our last region, and that is it. Colonization is complete in this area. UK, neutral, 2. We have a positive opinion, at least, with them now. But we are struggling to keep that at bay. With colonization totally done, this could change things. I think colonization was coming with an expense. So turning colonization off. Okay, well, there's still colonization possible to the southwest, but diplomatically we can't do anything, and we can't generate interest on it, and same with Wadai. So there's still that double issue to overcome. Let's see what happens with the banning of slavery, as that's our next thing, and let's see if we can't survive financially. Well, wouldn't that be something? We could possibly get the whole of Equatoria, the whole state, but here's what it would take to get the whole state. It would take war with Great Britain, and they have plenty of units, and they have potentially more with a whole lot of allies or colonies. What we would get on our side is Egypt, and Egypt has half of what Great Britain does. Now remember, our forces are very weak. Even though we have 12, they really wouldn't offer much of anything. Egypt is probably weaker than Great Britain. Probably. The Ottoman Empire, with Egypt, there's no way we win. But the Ottoman Empire could. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to befriend the Ottoman Empire. I don't think this is something we're going to want to do. I don't think it's something that would go particularly well for us. Slavery. Coming up on another window. It's about complete. And there it is. Okay, we have banned slavery. They said this is an experiment overall else. I mean, this could go very bad. This could go very bad. Half of our population just suddenly introduced to the political culture. At the moment, though, it's already flipped us back into a positive authority, and it's already almost fixed our balance, just as gold reserves are quite low. Push forward a few days, and let's see what our population looks like now. I'm assuming it's going to be mostly peasants. So with a population of 336,000, which is much larger than what we started with. Well, not much larger. We had, 230 at the start of the game? Something like that. It's gone up by over 100,000, but barely. 123,000 politically involved. We no longer have slaves, but the number of peasants went up a lot. Just pure laborers went up. Still largely impoverished, but we just went to an 11.2. So I think that actually did help raise it up a little bit. Politically inactive, mostly peasants. 100,000 of them. That was probably mostly slaves just a little bit ago. So a little better than a third are politically involved, at least at this point. Just discovered that our university is actually doing quite well. It's fully 100% employed. Of course, the literacy rates have come up significantly, but the problem is it still costs us money. Now, is there a change? We could, put in, say, a philosophy department, which would do what? Less laborers, more clerks, consume more paper. But qualifications would go up 5%. Innovation would go up 1%. You know what? It's worth a shot. Let's go ahead and bring in the philosophy department. Okay, so the livestock ranches are making money, at least some anyway. I would very much like to expand upon that here at some stage. The paper mill is now profitable, and more paper will be consumed, so that's a good thing. The logging camp is doubled what it's doing, and it's slowly it's employing about the same amount that it was, but it is profitable. Love to get into that rubber plantation, but we still don't have the rubber mastication. We'll have to get that at some stage. The arable land, I think that's the next stage. We need to get into some more of this. Coffee, good profit, but only 800 people are employed, so as we just employed 400 more. I'm wondering, employment is going up. You see that? Employment is rising. So freeing the slaves is having a positive impact, I think. I do think it's having a positive impact here on what is happening now. Our railway is still a big cost. It's still a big cost, but it's fully employed. And it is producing transportation for us. And it is giving us infrastructure, a decent amount, more than it was. So it's getting better and better as time goes on. But they're filling vacancies very quick. And I think that's kind of the big thing we're seeing at the moment is more and more vacancies are being occupied. So we are slowly able to fill out the jobs that we have. Just will this translate into a positive balance in the near future? I certainly hope it does. Now look at that. We are now fully employed for our livestock ranches in Darfur. What can we do? There are different options out there, but it's going to use more and more of X, Y, or Z as you go forward. That's just the fabric. Fabric would go down by 40, and fertilizer would replace it. But right now, fabric is such a low cost. Fabric's more expensive, even if it would drop to 7.5, because it would flood the market with no use for it. All right, so we're going to try to get after agrarianism to help with our economy a bit, as it is really struggling at the moment. The changeover on the ranch so far is not paying off at all. We're seeing a pretty big deficit. I may have to switch back to our old method as it's barely profitable. I'm trying to give it a chance to recover, but it's not. The employment is getting worse and worse. It's gone from 20,000 down to 6,000, and you can see we're essentially making a big negative. The fertilizer is there, and it's a thing, and it's adding to the market, but it's not helping us right now. So I think we need to switch back. Let's go back to a simple ranch and see if this will instantly more people are getting employed. So hopefully that'll restore some of the negative that we are incurring right now. In the meantime, we are adding another millet farm. So we've got one more coming down there, and I do want to get probably the next livestock ranch here, as we were fully employed. So it was working. It was going the right direction, and you can see. Okay, so one thing that was holding us back was as we were colonizing the Darfur Equatoria, we could not incorporate it. So it's actually still not incorporated. It's going to take us 5 years, but we are beginning that process. It's still a split state, but at least once it's incorporated, it's going to perform better, I would think. Central banking, I'm trying to do some things that are going to give us some better financial options in terms of research right now. Something I hadn't done yet is properly use this rail transportation that we're now bringing up, and switching from road carts to rail transportation is going to improve our productivity. Our logging camps are doing terrible right now. We've got 100 people employed, but let's see how much this helps things out. We're in the low to mid 20s in terms of what we're getting, so we can put in another, maybe the paper mill. Paper mill's making good money. That's one industry kind of collectively that would use up. All right, well, paper mill doesn't have an option for rail transportation. The millet farms don't either, but the coffee plantation does. So you can see we're using 5 right now for that. So that's 15 overall that we're using, which fits on what we're producing. And let's see how much of a boost that ends up giving us. Right now, we are falling very, very quickly into some massive debt that we don't have control over. This railway is, along with the interest on the loans, is absolutely destroying us. We've gone as far as we can towards high taxation. We can't do any new consumption taxes. So we are in a world of trouble right now that I think getting rid of the railway is our only chance of getting out. Okay, I've turned the subsidization off on the railway. Let's see what happens. So we were fully employing 5,000 people. This instantly brings us down to nothing in employment. So we are down to 0. That's 5,000 people that are going to be really upset. But, hello, money. But now it's producing no infrastructure. Okay, there you go. So we rehire some people. It's 500. It does have a slight negative balance, but not much. It's giving us a little bit of extra infrastructure and urbanization, but only a small amount of transportation now. So we may have to go back to some old ways here, as I'm guessing, yeah, we're getting a pretty mega shortage. Let's start by turning the logging camps back to road carts. And the coffee plantation only uses 5, so that's why I was keeping it on in the short term. And we have a negative balance, but that negative balance is now because interest is more than half of that. If we can get something to give us a little bit more, we can get back to a positive balance and slowly get out of that debt, get rid of that 1,000, and get to, being okay. I'm wondering if something like introducing tobacco or sugar. Okay. It looks like the UK has started colonizing in the Azande area, so they are now expanding that direction. So they are going to continue to get larger and larger. It still looks like, France has some pockets. Portugal has what they always had, but you're not seeing a Belgium. You're not seeing a Northern German Federation getting in there like normal. So very different outcomes, but we're looking at some pretty standard borders. The 2 Sicilies are fully Italy now, other than Modena and Lucca. Canada is fully Canada, except for the U.S. has a little pocket there. Mexico, the U.S. has taken California, but Mexico still has that little pocket. Otherwise, you're looking at standard borders here. Russia still owns Alaska at this point. Chile has done a little bit better than Argentina. Hello, British assistance. technology spread for military for 2 years, but owing an obligation to Great Britain. We don't want to lose relations with them, though. We'll take the obligation. I mean, what are they going to do? Ask us for the land? They very well could. The agrarianism did not pass on the last one, but it's looking pretty good to pass eventually. And I wonder how integrated is this now. 3 years to go. I don't know what exactly the penalties that we face for not being integrated, but I know that there are definite penalties. For example, more of our GDP should be coming out of this region by far. I mean, there's far more going on there, which was why we expanded, right? It's why we colonized that area. But here we are with only 40% of our GDP coming from the region. So this incorporation in 3 years' time could be huge. The turmoil pops, and I can't fix that at the moment. We have really low approval ratings and very high radical population, half the population now, and that is because of those maximum taxes, that push we have to break even. But unfortunately, our gold reserves, our situation here is getting worse at the moment, so I needed that to pass, and it hasn't done so, and so things are getting worse. The interest here, minus 1.2. I mean, we would have a positive balance if we weren't paying into this debt. Do we need to turn off the university temporarily? I mean, that would just about get us breaking even. Well, let's see if it passes this time, and then we'll have to go from there and see where we are at once we get to the end of that period. And we've fallen into default, so our financial situation is worsening. Apparently we just got out of default for the time being. We're going to get back into it at some point, as we are still not in a positive balance. Let's hope we can pass this agrarianism and that it helps our finances. Otherwise, big trouble coming. By the way, we have now covered more than half of the years that the playthrough will. Of course, that is assuming that we don't. We have a revolt brewing from the landowners. The number of radicals is going up rapidly. How long do we have? We can't wait till September for that. Okay, we've got to do something, and this is going to make our situation worse, I would think. Okay, legitimacy is absurdly low, but bringing the landowners back into the government would increase our legitimacy by 65%, but I can't confirm it. Why? Because they're angry. So what can we do? Might have to give in to their demands when they go to revolt. Take on debt proposed by France. Yes. It's going to give us an obligation, but they have no territorial intent to really grab what we have here. So there is our debt gone, and we're back into being okay. We have a slight positive balance that will slowly build up our gold reserves. And we have dodged a bullet for sure with that one, as France has taken on our debt. That is huge. And if we get the agrarianism passed here soon, which now with some radicals out there very much could go the opposite direction, as the revolt might still be on. And we now have agrarianism, so that has passed. That comes actually with some positive taxation rules that could help us make a bit more money. We can't afford to subsidize anyone, but let's see what that does for our economy in the short term. So one of the major dilemmas we've been having is that we have this isolationism. Maximum declared interest minus 50%. We do have a bonus to authority, but technology spread and disable trade routes, the big things on that one. So we need free trade or protectionism or mercantilism, and how we get into those. Well, we and economy law, because for us, the rubber would be a useful trade item if we could get something going. Our other problem is there's no support whatsoever in the government, anywhere, inside, outside, to get those going. So we're very much in trouble there. But that's one of the main reasons why we have really struggled with this, is the isolationism. All right, well, here's another chance to get the economy in a slightly better state. So we have land-based taxation and have had proportional taxation would have a very high impact on current levels. Predicted revenue is plus 400 following that one. So we'll see if that actually pans out. But the good news for us on possibly passing it is that the group currently in the government is the rural folk. Nobody else is in the government, so there shouldn't be any chance for it to fail. And so we're going to try to get that passed and see what that does for us. Uh-oh. Revolution coming really fast. We might have to stop this one. I think this is all about this, even though it's not going to fail because there's nobody in place to stop it. We've got to cancel. I'm guessing this is why the revolution is increasing. It's still increasing right now. Uh-oh. I have just triggered because they want to restore traditionalism. And this time, where it wasn't succeeding before, Darfur would secede. Actually, that's not a bad thing if Darfur secedes. We might be stronger as Darfur Equatoria. It's a better state than what we had. We'll see if that's a possibility. Otherwise, this could be a quick end to things, or we just see a change in the government. So that's kind of the three outcomes I see happening from this, but there's nothing stopping this revolution. It's coming. I need a better general if we're going to have any chance, though. Alright, revolution is upon us. All 12 units. All 12 units have gone to the revolution. So we have 0. I don't think we can win this one. It's going to take too long. They're going to have days. As we have no units. They're going to take this in just a moment. There you go. Yeah, minus 100. But yeah, we don't even have a barracks here, so. Alright, folks. Well, we can count on the loss. It's just, what is the outcome? We have none of the troops. There was no split. Literally, the entire army has gone to the revolution. That is too many years of playing with fire in the economy. We have created more and more and more radicals over time. We only have 43,000 here in this territory, and 30,000 of them are radicals even. So France declares neutrality. There you go. It's turning to war. The aristocratic revolt. They want to annex Darfur. And they've already occupied the territory as we had no troops, so it's going to be over in a moment. Like I said, the two outcomes, either it flips the government, or they take the one territory of Darfur and leave us the better territory, which wouldn't necessarily be it. So, will it flip the government? Will it split the country in two? Or will we find ourselves removed from power entirely? Essentially, game over. And there it is. Capitulation. Game over. Alright, folks. Well, lesson learned on that. The big thing, the big takeaway here was, one, I left the railway. I didn't know the railway was being subsidized. It did it automatically. I didn't select the button. However, the cost of the railway was too much for a nation of our size. Now, the two key takeaways are, one, isolationism. Oh, gosh, that's brutal with no trade as an option. We did manage to take Darfur and grow and expand and make them stronger, but we really only moved up about 10 spots in our ranking as a nation. But also, the big learn here at the end was that if you have a revolt, you don't just flip government as a result. If you lose, you lose. It's game over. Now, could we switch to be the other part of Darfur? Probably. But what I'm going to do here is that's 3 episodes. That's Darfur. We'll call Darfur in the bag. We'll move on to another nation with the lessons that have been learned. I mean, that was always the intention anyway. It was intended as a very quick learning playthrough, and there's been plenty of lessons learned. So I'll take that as a positive. Now, is it a win? Well, clearly not. We've experienced a game over on our first playthrough the hard way. But we did make a lot happen over the course of that one, over very difficult circumstances. If I knew more, we probably could have been in a better state. But we tried things, and they didn't always work. But we did succeed in plenty of ways, so that's good. And I know a lot more about the inner mechanics of the game at this stage, so I'm okay with the fact that, things are ending a little prematurely. For episode 4, we'll be taking on a new nation in the very near future. In the future, I'll have you voting on what nation we go to as we anticipate things a little bit better on. But for now, with the game just releasing and recording in a back-to-back type nature, I'll just be picking whatever one is next. But the idea is it's going to be a little bit bigger than what we had with Darfur, so we are moving up in the nation a little, or in the world a little bit, but it's still going to be on the smaller side of nations. So that's the projection for the next one. But in the future, for a medium-sized country, keep that in mind, and we can throw those suggestions out in the future, and I'll definitely leave it to a vote. But I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.